Okay, so we have to talk about the final item on our list. And if you've been with the stream this long, I appreciate it. And if you're just joining us, be sure to go back and watch the full top 10 list where we run down our top 10 most shocking reveals from Avengers Endgame. But I've saved the one of the most shocking things until last, which has to do with the end credit sequences for the film. Now, I have to say, I was surprised at how Marvel handled this film. Now, if you think back to the earliest days of the Marvel film, I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, Nick Fury kicks off this trend in the very first Iron Man film. So I'm sitting there in the theater with everybody else, and the first kind of area of the credits where the sequence is normally going to come in, it doesn't happen. Usually what they do is they'll have a small credit sequence. They'll give us kind of the first kind of post-credit sequence or scene. Then they'll have the rest of the credits, which is like 10, 15 minutes long. Then at the very end, of course, we have our main scene that sets up something else. So we didn't have anything at the beginning of the credits. The theater and I sat through the entire credit sequence, and we get to the end. Now, here is the shocking part. I was very shocked to see what came up on the screen at the end. Probably as shocked as you were if you've seen the film. So it goes to black. The credits are over. We see the Marvel logo. And that's it. There were no 0.0 after credit scenes. Now, I know I wasn't the only one shocked at that, because I had a whole theater of people sitting there with me that were just as... We were all kind of dumbstruck by that, except for one guy. There was actually a guy sitting right next to me, because it was a packed theater, and you didn't really have... I couldn't do the normal thing where we, try to get some seats with some space in between us. So me and this guy are literally sitting like shoulder to shoulder. As soon as the film went off and the first credits rolled, he jumped up and left immediately. So he clearly knew something I didn't. He must have looked it up like before he came in. Because I remember he got up and I looked and I'm like, what is this guy doing? Like, doesn't he know where he is? This is a Marvel movie. You know there's going to be something at the end of the credits. Nope. We got nothing. Not a single thing. Well, we got one little thing, which we will talk about. But first, I want to talk about why I am completely and 100% okay with that decision. While I get that has become a fun novelty and almost expected by all Marvel fans, myself included, I will never leave a Marvel film before the credits are done just to make sure I don't miss anything. I even started doing that for other movies, like completely unrelated films, like romantic comedies. I'll sit there and I'll think, should I sit through the credits? What if they show a scene at the end? And sometimes DC films do it. So I'm not really sure what the new standard is. So I get paranoid. I'm like, I can't just jump up and leave. I might miss something. But with this film, they took 10 years of Marvel movies that they have been setting up one after another and slowly but surely laying this foundation. And with Endgame, they wrap up things so perfectly as far as this specific saga is concerned. Of course, there's going to be more Marvel films. That's not the point. The point is, with this set of movies, it made sense to tease and continue to set up the next film and the next film. If they had tagged it with anything at this point, even though I was curious to see what it was, and I'm kind of excited for an end credit sequence, and I want to see what was going to happen, I'm kind of glad that they didn't, because there was really nothing else they needed to do. I am completely satisfied with this film and the journey that Marvel has taken me on for 10 years. So if you are one of the people that are just pissed off or, aggravated that they didn't do more, they didn't keep up with tradition, just remember that, as Tony says, the ending is as much of the journey as the beginning. And it's time that this chapter of the Marvel Cinematic Universe came to a close, and it's perfect. Now, there was one thing at the end that I'm glad that they included. There's a sound over the shot of the Marvel logo. There's a sound of this hammer banging on this anvil. And I was thinking to myself, like, what is that? I thought maybe, was that something to do with Thor and Thor's hammer or something? And the lady next to me, as she was getting up to leave, she said, I think that's the sound of the sound Tony is making in the first film when he's building his original, like, Mark I armor in the cave when he's just trying to escape the terrorist. And as I was driving home, I was thinking about that, and I thought to myself, what a perfect way for this to end. Now, when Tony does he says the same thing that he said in the first film. He literally says the words, and then the film ends with the sound of Tony hammering out his armor. That's perfect to me. Because if it was not for Robert Downey Jr., and also a big shout out to Jon Favreau, who I don't feel gets enough credit. If that first Iron Man film did not work, make no mistake, you would not have a Marvel Cinematic Universe. You would have just had a bad comic book movie that nobody took serious, maybe a sequel, maybe not, but you would not have had the empire that this grew into if that first film did not work. If you think back to the kind of the early to mid 2000s, if you were to ask somebody on the street to name a superhero character, they're going to go with like Batman or Superman. Those are the go-tos. Those are the number ones. And then if you say, no, name a Marvel character, the average person back then is not even going to know the difference. If you're someone in the know, if you follow, comic books or gaming or that kind of thing, yeah, you probably know. But the average person on the street at that time couldn't even tell you the difference between Marvel characters and DC characters. And if they did, more likely than not, they're going to name an X-Man, they're going to name Wolverine, they're going to name Fantastic Four or Spider-Man. They're not going to say a D-list character like Iron Man, who you weren't buying Iron Man action figures off the shelf in like 2004, 2005. It was Robert Downey Jr. and the success of that first film that created all of this. These figures on my shelf behind me, this hat, this Marvel shirt, that was the house that Iron Man built. That was the work of Jon Favreau. Again, props to him. Robert Downey Jr., who took a character that I don't think anybody cared about, really. I mean, Iron Man can be a cool character, but Robert Downey Jr. made Tony Stark interesting. He made Tony Stark something that people wanted to be. Tony Stark became more popular than Iron Man ever has. And that's that credit goes to that first film. So the fact that they chose to end it in the same way that it began, perfect. That is exactly how it should have ended. And I cannot say enough to Marvel. Thank you for the journey, and we'll see you next time.